It was one of the biggest issues a season ago for the Georgia Bulldogs. The offensive line, the injuries, the inconsistency, the lack of a run game, all of those were massive problems for Georgia as they somehow got all the way to the SEC championship game and beat Texas to win it. So, do they have the number one offensive line in the SEC this season? Cole Kublik thinks they do. He he thinks they do. Now, if you don't know who Cole is, one of the guys on the SEC network, former offensive lineman at Auburn, it's kind of something I think he knows quite a bit about. But I was taken aback by seeing him list Georgia number one. He talked about a couple of different things that I want to spotlight here, and I'm going to do a deeper dive into this over time. He says, the problems that they've got can get corrected. So I would argue first that Georgia lost the SEC, the Sugar Bowl Notre Dame because of mistakes. Okay, period. And Notre Dame took advantage of those. Whether you're talking about the fumble, that was really a play Notre Dame made. Okay, why? Well, I mean, you got not necessarily the offensive line. You got a wide receiver who has since transferred, missing a block there. Come scot-free hitting, the defender or the offensive player right where you're supposed to with the ball. Ball comes loose. Notre Dame jumps on it. They, score right thereafter. It was a huge momentum twist going into the half, and then coming out of the half, scored a touchdown on the first play, on the kickoff. And that game, it wasn't over, but with all that was difficult for Georgia coming into that game, that made it even more challenging to come back. So the inconsistency for blocking in that game was a real problem and a real challenge. And Notre Dame had a good defense. Their offense sucked, but they had a good defense. So there was that. Here's another thing that Cole talks about. He says, if you're going to get beat up at this position, you're not going to be number one no matter what. Well, that was a massive problem for Georgia last year. And just way too many whack-a-mole situations on the offensive line, trying to figure out this, trying to figure out that. Just way too many misses as it relates to players playing because they weren't healthy. Whether you're talking about, Wilson in the middle or Tate Ratledge from the Kentucky game until I don't even know when. And so there were too many challenges in terms of setting the line. So now you're coming into 2025 with a situation where, this Georgia offensive line is a good offensive line. I'm not sure it's great. And I think that's the real, issue is who is a great player on this offensive line? Ernest Green? He could be. He had plenty of times when he wasn't great a season ago. But as, Cole was saying, that you can see it on film. That is out there. That is something that did exist and does exist. Drew Bobo, your center does not have to be the most physically imposing person. He is a big person, though, actually. Even for a center, he's pretty big. So you've got a particular thing there where you need him to perform not just physically, but surveying the field and doing all of that. So, Bobo at center, I think, is, a good situation. But you've got to figure out your left tackle. If your right tackle is going to be Ernest Green, well, let's just say your tackles. If your tackles are going to be Green and Freeling, okay, that means from that point forward, you can get in there and figure out what do you want on the interior. Because, you got guys like Daniel Calhoun. You got Juan Gaston. These guys will straight up maul you. They will maul you on the interior. Micah Morris. These are guys that you did not like. When you played when you were little, unfortunately, I was an offensive lineman and when I was younger, before I blossomed into a taller person that didn't bother. You did not want these just monsters in front of you that you had to deal with. That's what they've got on the interior. They got some big badasses. Now, they got to be able to pass protect and do all that stuff, but, I don't know. I mean, I've seen Daniel Calhoun. I know what you got going on there. Let's just watch that develop. I know Juan Gaston's situation. I grew up with his father. We played against each other, know each other, and all that. You don't want to mess with that. Like, so he's going to have to develop, but that was a great get for Georgia over time. The athleticism is there already. Micah Morris, older, big kid. You got Merriweather, short. I mean, like, they've got options. Okay, Jai Jackson on the outside. There's a lot of things that they can do with this bunch. They've got to perform in the run game. If they don't do that, it's not going to work. And this is the thing that Cole, again, I'm referencing Cole Klubnik from ESPN talking about, he's very well known for very acutely SEC offensive line play, but offensive line play generally speaking, but acutely that. Like you got him and Jeff Saturday, Matt Stinchcomb, all these old offensive linemen that get all geeked up talking about it. I understand it. It's hard, man. Playing on the offensive line, it's the only position in football where 5 people are in the same sort of general area playing alongside each other. That's not the case with the DBs and the linebackers. I mean, there's very rarely 5 defensive linemen in a football game. Let's say 120 snaps. It happens, but it's not all the time, right? In this case, these guys got to get it right. And one thing that Cole was talking about, and this is, I think, the takeaway from the video that he talked about, is he says, Kirby, Stacy Searles, and Mike Bobo want to prove that last year was an anomaly. Again, they were not good at running the ball. They were straight up bad at times. And that just can't happen. It's just not. It's not good enough. And not. So what I mean by that specifically is, in football, if you want to be good, you've got to have good offensive line play. But Georgia specifically, that's who they are. That's what they've been for a long, long time. There have been very few instances with Eric Zier, maybe in 2012, but you had Todd Gurley as your running back. There's very few times where people just said, "Hey, we're just going to reach back and throw it." A couple games with Jacob Eason, but this program is built on, we're going to fight you. We are going to fight you, and they've got the guys to do it. The main thing is, are you settled on the outside, and do you have your center? Those questions seem to be answered. Then after that is, who are the other people, or like, what rotation do we use on the outside? Because I'm going to let you know, Mike, Stacy, not Kirby, but Mike and Stacy have been eating a bunch of shit about, I don't know about the development, but the execution of the offensive line at Georgia a season ago. Everybody wants to kill Mike, and plenty of people want to kill Stacy about what, I'm talking figuratively here, about the performance a season ago, and it wasn't good enough. It just wasn't. They don't need me to say it. And if they're going to get back to championship form, I'm talking about national championship form, then this group's got to get better. But again, the bodies are there. They were there last year, but something just didn't work. I mean, was it injuries? That was a lot of it. You had way too many injuries with the running backs, generally speaking. You had way too many injuries on the offensive line. There were very few situations where you had quarterback healthy, starting offensive line healthy, number 1 running back healthy. I don't know if Georgia had beyond 6 quarters with that. Think about that now. The first game, I'm not talking about healthy. First game, ETN doesn't play. He's suspended. Second game, Texas Tech. So that's 4 quarters. Tennessee Tech, that's 4 quarters. And then 2 quarters against Kentucky. And then what? How long until everybody was together again? Tech? Maybe? Georgia Tech game? They didn't run on them. So I don't even know if ETN played in that game. I don't think he did. So it might speak to my point. And they need it all. It's all got to go the right way. You have to constantly, perform. And he did not play. He did not play against them. So Trevor did not play against them. So just not a lot of consistency from this run game a season ago. But it does start with the offensive line. They've got to get that right. And until that happens, they're going to have issues. But Cole is not an idiot. And when you start talking about they're the number one team coming in, he took some liberties with it. He's saying they're the number one team, and this is why I think so. But either that means, and it's possible these both things are true, that they're better than people think, and the league is not great on the offensive line. It can be both those things. It can be both those things at the same time. But Kirby Smart has developed his program on physicality, and you cannot get that without the offensive line playing well. Thanks for watching.